Good afternoon and welcome to today's caregiver webinar, Adult Service Options for the Aging. My name is Allegra Jaffe and I am a caregiver specialist with the Fairfax Area Agency on Aging. Before I introduce today's speakers, I will go over a few housekeeping items. We will allocate a few minutes at the end of the presentation for you to submit your questions by typing the questions into the Q&A box on your Zoom panel. We have also enabled closed captioning. If you would like to use subtitles, please enable the closed captioning on your Zoom panel. Today's presentation is being recorded and we will send out the recording within the next week to all the registrants. And as you sign out, there will be a brief survey. So if you can please help us by giving us your feedback. It's my pleasure now to introduce today's speaker, Tammi Cave and Jonathan Bell. Tammi Cave is an adult social service specialist with the Fairfax County and has experiences in adult services and adult protective services. She is a strong advocate and a skilled professional who graduated from the Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, and has a Master of Science in Human Services. Jonathan Bell is the supervisor of the long-term care unit of Fairfax County's Adult Services Program. With a master's in social work from George Mason University, he has served older adults for the past 19 years in various community settings, including homeless services, dementia care, home health, and adult protective services. Tammi and Jonathan are going to share their expertise with us today. Thank you so much, Tammi and Jonathan, and welcome.
Thank you, Allegra, and good afternoon, everyone. Bear with me as I share my screen. So yes, as you heard from Allegra, Tammi and I are employed with the Adult Services Program within the Division of Adult and Aging, and that lives within the Department of Family Services in Fairfax County. And what we're going to talk about today is a lot of the services that Adult Services offers to older adults, primarily in the county. We do also serve adults with disabilities, those 18 years and older with disability. But our focus today will be primarily on older adults, as I know that's the audience to which we're speaking. So this really is a treat to be here with you. We don't get the opportunity to do this very much, to share this information, but we do know that there's a huge need for these programs within the county to support older adults and their loved ones. So we'll start, just as I said, we reside sort of within the Adult and Aging Division, and this is our mission statement: to promote and sustain a high quality of life for older adults, adults with disabilities, and caregivers, crucially, by offering a mixture of services and resources provided through public and private sectors. And I think this is the really crucial part, this last bit, that maximize personal choice, dignity, and independence. And as we talk through sort of the continuum of care, continuum of services that are offered even just within the Adult Services Program, I trust that you'll hear that there really is choice and there's focus on dignity and independence as much as possible. So that's that sort of frames who we are, where we're coming from, who our services are geared to, and why. This will actually be our last slide as well. We'll come back to this, but I do just want to make sure that you're aware of how to connect with services within the Adult and Aging Division. So just a phone call away, Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30. This line, the Aging, Disability, and Caregiver Resources line, is staffed by social workers. And I emphasize that because it's more than just an intake line. There really is opportunity to talk through your situation and really identify where the best source of service delivery might come from for your particular situation. So I'll put this up here, feel free to jot it down, but it'll come back up at the end as well. And our web address is there as well. All right, so just broadly about adult services, and I guess I've probably talked about this a little bit already, but again, adult services is a program that lives within the adult and aging division. As I said, we serve adults 60 years of age or older and persons with disabilities 18 and older. And folks who meet certain financial and functional eligibility criteria. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I won't get sort of too technical with it. That's something that can be explored as you contact the ADCR line, as you work with a social worker. We offer case management of older and vulnerable adults who require assessment services to promote, again, independence, well-being, and placement when appropriate. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. And case management really is a cornerstone of the services that we provide. It's something that's offered by our social workers in all case types to really understand, sort of holistically what the need is of any given individual and their support system. So some of the program service areas that we'll talk about today, case management, and you'll just hear that throughout. Tammy's going to talk specifically about our home-based care program, and then we'll get into more of the long-term care settings, assisted living, and screenings and placement for long-term care services and supports, which includes nursing home level of care, nursing facility placement, and so forth. So that's where we're going. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tammi to talk about home-based care.
Okay, so our home-based care program is a service provided to eligible adults to help them remain in their homes and prevent unnecessary placement in a facility. Eligible Fairfax County residents are those residents who meet an assisted living level of care and are living in the community, such as in their homes, in a relative's home, or in an independent senior living residence. The income eligibility for the home-based care program is basically for single individuals, a limit of $3,300 a month. And then for a couple or for a household of two, the income limit is $4,300. We know that more than 96% of caregivers provide help with activities of daily living, and such as personal hygiene care, dressing and undressing, getting in and out of the bed, and also assistance with instrumental activities of daily living, such as helping with prescribed medications, shopping for groceries, and transportation. According to the National Alliance for Caregiving and AARP, 57% of caregivers report that they do not have a choice about performing these tasks. And this is, they feel that this is self-imposed. Some feel that these tasks are their personal responsibility. Others feel that they are pressured to perform these tasks by the care receiver. And then about 8% report that they are pressured to perform these tasks by like another family member. So say they are the power of attorney, and other family members are like, okay, since you're kind of in charge, you should be the one to perform the task. So the home-based care program is for individuals and our clients, but it's also a great help to caregivers because it allows for them to get a break, to have a break, to get some respite. The home-based care services assist adults with tasks of daily living, such as laundry services, housekeeping, bathing, and many other services. So the home-based care services are provided through a home health agency that's contracted with Fairfax County. The eligibility is determined by a social services specialist, and paired with the home-based care services are case management, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, case management services. And these services allow for the social services specialist or the worker to be able to assess other needs that the client or the person may need, and allows for successful aging in place. So the social service specialist is often able to provide resources and referrals to services such as Meals on Wheels, transportation services, benefit programs such as Medicaid and SNAP. And SNAP is the food stamps program. And they also assist with obtaining higher or assessing for higher levels of care if needed. You know, sometimes there's a point where the home-based care services just aren't enough anymore. And, you know, people are asking, okay, this isn't working and, you know, anymore. Is there another level of care, you know, that the individual can have? And then many people are asking, and how do I know when it's time for another level of care? So I would say that signs that, you know, home-based care is no longer a good place for them to be is when there's recent falls or there's mobility issues. Sometimes the person is no longer able to call for help. They're forgetting to take their medications. They're consistently unable to handle daily life activities such as bathing. If you know that usually, you know, the people that you are coming in contact with, or an older adult or your family member, is usually their hygiene is on, but they've been a little off consistently, maybe that's a sign that something is going on. And then I would say also, if you notice that usually the person is chipper, you know, usually they're in a good mood and they're doing well, but you've noticed lately that they're becoming depressed. They're feeling lonely. Maybe a facility or a higher level of care should be considered, because it does offer social interaction and social activities. So let's hear from Jonathan about a higher level of care, which would be assisted living, a higher level care from home-based care.
Great, thanks, Tammy. Yeah, and you know, the other thing I'll add about home-based care is sort of, and as we talk about some of these other services that our social service specialists, such as Tammy, are assessing for, it sort of feels like an assisted living facility light. Those services kind of being provided, you know, in the comfort of your home. You know, home-based care is one element of that. Meals on Wheels may be another. Transportation, medication assistance. We've got, we're really, really fortunate in Fairfax County to have a plethora of services, the vast majority of which have, you know, very high eligibility thresholds. So a lot of people qualify for them. And rarely is there a wait list for these county-based programs. So a lot of opportunity for folks. And again, we want to support as much as possible to the extent that folks, it's their wish, that folks are aging in place, meaning in their home or in a home of a loved one, in an independent setting with wraparound supportive services as needed. And we're actually going to, as we get into the final section, we'll talk about yet another service for folks at a very high level of care to, again, remain in their homes and receive that level of care. So regardless of the level of care, there is, you know, typically an option for folks to remain in their home when it's their wish. But yes, let's get into assisted living facilities and adult foster care, which is a kind of a unique program, which we'll talk about. So yeah, as Tammy mentioned, some folks may choose to receive care, and the level of care that we're talking about here is on par with home-based care. So we're not talking about a very high level of care. We're not talking about nursing home level of care, which, you know, just in the name implies there's a medical need. So that's not what we're talking about here. And we'll talk more about sort of the differences between assisted living and nursing home. I think often there's a misconception about what that looks like. So assisted living facilities are going to, you know, provide support for folks who, you know, have, you know, some need for assistance with their ADLs, their activities of daily living, whether that's bathing, dressing, toileting. Maybe they just need help remembering to take their medication. Or as Tammi suggested, maybe just really want more socialization, and an assisted living facility can be a great way to meet those needs, have meals provided, have laundry provided, housekeeping, all those sorts of things in the comfort of a home type setting, where you've got neighbors, you've got socialization, you've got activities, you've got those sorts of things to support. So our social service specialists complete assessments for assisted living facility. Primarily, we are looking at public pay admission. And when I say public pay, and that third bullet there, the auxiliary grant, and again, I don't want to get too technical, but it is a program within Medicaid. So it's designed to support folks for assisted living facility who are low income. And in the next slide, we'll talk about the options that auxiliary grants, the auxiliary grant options that exist in Fairfax County, which are many. So our the assessments, that may be the first thing that someone's requesting, or it may be sort of a gradual, graduation to that level of care. And of course, the assessment and the eligibility determination is followed by assistance and support with actual placement into the facility of choice. All right, so let's talk about the facilities that are available to folks within Fairfax County, and actually a little bit beyond, but currently we're supporting clients in 21 private facilities that are accepting the auxiliary grant. So these are your Sunrises and Bright Views and these types of facilities that are private facilities, but they have a limited number of beds for public pay auxiliary grant funded beds. So again, already a large number there of facility options. Furthermore, the county actually operates two facilities, one in partnership with a private provider. So that's Lincolnia Assisted Living Facility in Alexandria. That's that first picture there. And we have more than 50 residents there at the Lincolnia Assisted Living. And then the Willow Oaks facility down in Manassas is owned and operated fully by Northern Virginia jurisdiction. So it's owned by Fairfax County and Loudoun and Arlington and Alexandria, Prince William. And so we have a large number, almost 40 residents, Fairfax County residents that are at the Willow Oaks facility. Willow Oaks is a beautiful campus. If you're in the Manassas area, you get a chance to check it out. And actually there's both assisted living and nursing home level of care there at that location. Additionally, Lincolnia actually provides sort of a continuum as well. There's a senior center, there's independent living, and then the assisted living facility there as well. And then finally, adult foster care homes. So again, I mentioned this is sort of a unique program. Very few jurisdictions offer this. These are private homes, and we partner with these private individuals who provide support to one or two older adults in their home, a townhome, single family home. And while the owner of the home may not be there throughout the day, the whole day, they are providing assistance with medication reminders, with meal preparation, obviously housekeeping, laundry, some of those things. And so again, as we sort of talk about the continuum and the graduation of care levels, this is yet another option for folks who are at this level of care to remain in a true home setting, but with much more support than they might receive from simply home-based care services or what have you. So that's our sort of assisted living and adult foster care programs. And just to sort of keep in mind, again, we're talking about a very similar level of care to home-based care. Then let's talk about sort of the next higher level of care. And this is a state program under Medicaid. And again, this is designed for folks who are at a nursing home level of care. So folks who not only need assistance with bathing, dressing, toileting, but maybe have cognitive impairment, who have some sort of medical nursing need that requires ongoing monitoring, ongoing support. There are many of these things that an assisted living would not be equipped to manage, that this level of care can support those sorts of things. So let's talk about just first how to get connected to the service. So the first thing is a pre-screening. That determines whether someone meets that level of care to be eligible for this service. And again, just to reiterate, this is designed for those who again, sort of getting a little technical here, but at risk of institutionalization. So someone who really is not supported sufficiently in their own home or in a community type setting, that if they don't receive this high level of care, that they would be at risk of facility placement. That assessment's conducted in the individual's home or in their wherever they're living by a social worker such as Tammi and a public health nurse. That assessment usually takes about an hour and a half. And again, we're determining the level of care. Of course, there is a financial piece as well. As I mentioned, it's a Medicaid program. So while our social workers aren't determining the financial eligibility, they would certainly be assisting with the process, ensuring that the applications are in and so forth, and sort of guiding that in partnership with our county Medicaid staff. And then the service options, where the care is provided. That's something that social service specialists like Tammi would talk through. Where is it most appropriate for this care to be received? Are you seeking facility placement, or as we mentioned before, would you feel most comfortable receiving this care at home? So let's talk about specifically what those care options are. So the first is care in the home. It's called the CCC Plus waiver. That's the Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus waiver. It's a home and community-based care program. And there's a couple of ways that this service can be provided. It can be provided directly, we call it agency directed. So working with a home health agency provider to provide services with an aide that they employ. And again, the type of care that they would be providing: bathing, dressing, toileting, meal prep, housekeeping, medication reminder, even grocery shopping and then this sort of thing, as well as some of the medical nursing need, depending on what that need is. The CCC Plus waiver also offers an option for folks to employ their own attendants. And basically that's code for if you have a friend or even a family member who you would feel most comfortable actually being the aide to provide the service in the home. You would work with a service facilitator that would help, address the paperwork, the paychecks and all that stuff that sort of go between with Medicaid. And you could in fact employ someone that that you're familiar with to provide the care for you in your home. So again, that's a home-based program, again, at that nursing home level of care. So again, we're talking about the various settings and the different levels of care. This is kind of, marriage between very high level of care and being able to remain aging in place. So a great option. Of course, folks who are at that level of care would be eligible for nursing home placement. They really are interchangeable. So in fact, there are some folks who start with the waiver and decide, this is not enough care. I need really round the clock 24-hour care. that nursing home would be a better placement, a better option for me. And there's not an additional, assessment that has to happen. That transition can happen fairly easily. And vice versa, really. So if, again, you are initially in a facility and wish to return to the community, that option remains. As it's a state program, our assessment of someone's care needs means that while they can certainly identify facilities here in Fairfax County that they wish to reside in, you can actually go anywhere in the Commonwealth, and without an additional assessment. And then the third option within this long-term care, within this sort of high sort of care need, is a program we call PACE, Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. That's a picture actually of the PACE program called Cherry Blossom, that's in Alexandria, and serves a large portion actually of the county, not the entire county just yet. But it's fairly new. Within the last year or so, it opened. PACE did exist through Inova many years ago, but that was closed. So Cherry Blossom has just again opened in this past year and sort of filling that gap. It's really, I mean, if you're not familiar with the model, it's an integrative adult day center. So the idea is that folks can again be remaining to live in the community, but going to this PACE location during the day to receive the services, the care that they need. Transportation can be provided to the center, where services are provided, including visits with doctors and socialization activities and various things. PACE can also help with if there's additional needs at home to facilitate that care at home as well. So it's sort of almost like nursing home during the day, and then you go home and continue your life in the community. So these are sort of the options for nursing home level of care in Fairfax County. So I see we've blown through this presentation quite quickly. Again, this is how to get connected to services. Just a phone call away. Would really encourage folks to use that. Our staff who man those lines are very, very knowledgeable about services both within adult and aging and throughout the county. So a great resource for not just individuals seeking services, but caregivers as well, who have questions about how to manage a situation where services would be best accessed. This is really a great resource for our community. So as I said, we've gone through this quite quickly, Allegra. So
that's okay.
I hope we've got plenty of time for questions.
We do. So at this time, I would like to invite our audience to please submit your questions in the Q&A box on the Zoom panel, so that I can read it out loud to our speakers. So I have a few questions that have came in already. One of them was about a husband with dementia. Is there any services that can help him go through accumulated professional papers? Like somebody who could come and help with that specific task? Sure.
Yes, is the short answer. We have a couple of programs. The money management program, which actually is within our AAA program, can provide support to folks who need help with budgeting and this sort of thing. So that might be one resource. The other is our volunteer solutions program, and this is a fantastic program. It's sort of in the name there. These are volunteers, often older adults, frankly, who are looking for a way to remain engaged, who provide all manner of sort of professional backgrounds and supports anything from IT to financial to just socialization, folks who are skilled in the kitchen and this sort of thing. So so I think both of those programs may be able to address those needs. And again, to get connected to either of those, we'll just refer you back to this phone number to request that service.
Yes. And I'm just going to say the phone number because we have folks who are on the phone
Sure.
listening.
Thanks. Yeah.
And so that phone number is 703-324-7948. And I'll repeat it again. That's 703-324-7948. And the TTY is 711. This is available Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30 p.m. And as Jonathan already mentioned, it's a must answer phone line answered by master level social workers. And I just want to let the audience know in our follow-up email, where we will be sending the recording, I will also be sending the PowerPoints. So you will get this hard copy of this information in your email that you signed up with today. So if you didn't get the number, I'll be forwarding this to you. Another question we had, and I think you already may have mentioned this, Jonathan, is where meal help, prep can help, if somebody needs meal prep. And I'm thinking, Meals on Wheels with Volunteer Solutions, but I'll let you answer that one too.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, a couple of these programs may need the need. So someone who's residing in their own home, home-based care services, that may be an option. Meal preparation is something that our aides can provide. For folks who are receiving the waiver, so the CCC plus waiver at a nursing home level of care, they would receive assistance with meal preparation as well. And obviously for those folks who are in facilities, that's something, Willow Oaks, just to kind of give a plug again for our Willow Oaks facility down in Manassas, those are all private rooms that all have a kitchenette. So folks who are looking to, continue, their independence in terms of meal preparation, as an example, that's something that they can continue to do themselves or avail themselves of the meal service that's provided at the facility. So hope that answers the question.
Yes. We had a question that came in earlier. It was when you were on the home-based, the home care-based services PowerPoint, they asked if income is over $4,300 a month, are they not eligible? And this was the PowerPoint that had Meals on Wheels, transportation, benefit programs. And I know most of those programs are individual. So some of them are not even income based. It's based on what your situation is. So this is the one, I think it's even back one more. Yeah, maybe this is it. So they're asking if they're over 4,300, are they not eligible for these services?
So what we're talking about here is just income. So we're not looking at other assets, savings, anything like that. All we're looking at is monthly income. And this is based on, state guidelines. Each jurisdiction has their the right to sort of set wherever that is, and Fairfax County, compared to actually other jurisdictions, set it at a very high level. So it's at about 70% of median income for the state. So yes, I mean, if your income for a household of two, mind you, your monthly income was over, I think it's 4,330 or something to be precise. But if your monthly income were over that, then yes, you would probably be ineligible for home-based care services. That said, and I failed to mention this, when our social workers are involved, they're helping assess, they know all the technical details of, whether you're eligible or not, right? If they determine that for some reason you're not eligible functionally or financially, I mentioned that we're, very fortunate to have, great number of services in the county. They can certainly provide referral to other care options. ElderLink, for instance, is an option that would sort of be for folks who are maybe at a higher income level, and that's a county program in partnership with Inova hospital system. Or there are caregiver registries, folks who you can hire that that we're aware that we've vetted, that may charge less hourly than a home health agency. So there's I don't want to say there's always other options, but there are always other options, and the sort of the detail of the eligibility, I was hesitant to put it in here, but I think it's important for folks to kind of get a sense of who these programs are designed for, which is why we left it in. But we can help you sort of understand what the eligibility criteria is.
Right. And a lot of the programs that you're mentioning too, like ElderLinks, the sliding scales are available. And for some of the programs for volunteer solutions, they are available to the public, and there is no income requirement for some of those programs. So just like Jonathan was talking about, to call that, our main intake line and let them sort through what would work for your situation and where you are with your finances. Our next question I have, Jonathan and Tammy, is there a limit on hours for in-home LTSS?
So it is not a 24-hour program. So folks who need around-the-clock care, and as Tammy was talking about, trying to decide whether in-home care is right for you, if you're at the level, in a situation where an individual really needs around-the-clock care, a facility placement is really going to be the best option if there aren't other sort of support systems in place, family or what have you, to support folks. So there is a limit in that regard. Is there a number that I can give you specifically? No, but it really depends on an individual's situation. It depends actually sometimes a little bit on who the provider is and this sort of thing, and what the other support systems that exist for an individual. But it's not uncommon for folks to receive 8, 10, even 12 hours a day of care. So it's not insignificant, but it is not 24-hour care. I think actually there's probably more of a minimum, not sort of in regulations, but most folks are receiving at least 4 to 6 hours of care a day, really not much less than that. So again, hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Is PACE the same adult day care that is offered through the Herndon Adult Day Care Center?
No, is the short answer. It's a different program. The Adult Day Health is its own program that's managed by our folks in Neighborhood and Community Services, and so it's not a nursing home level of care. In fact, it would be probably closer to the assisted living level of care. PACE is very similar in its structure and sort of the operating hours and this sort of thing, that it's sort of a community center type feel, senior center type feel, but with additional medical supports, because these are folks who are at that nursing home level of care. So it's an adult day type PACE, but it's sort of a graduated step up from that.
So it's higher level.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do a lot of these Medicaid facilities have long waiting lists? Is our next question.
Sure. At times, yes. And Tammy may be able to speak to this as well, but anecdotally, anyway, what I've noticed over the last couple of years to do with COVID, actually, folks have been less anxious to move into facilities, and so that's created some opportunity for folks and wait lists to be shorter. So yes, some facilities do often have wait lists, but again, that's where I sort of mentioned that you can look beyond Fairfax County. So maybe that your first choice is here in Fairfax, but they've got a 6-month wait list or what have you, need services today. You can certainly find another location, or maybe receive the waiver services during that time. And then once you come up on the wait list, move in. So yes, you do encounter some of that. Tammi, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
I agree. I think with the assisted, for assisted living, I'm sorry, you're talking about for Medicaid placement for CCC
For nursing home, yeah, for nursing home placement, wait list.
For me, I really haven't experienced a long waiting list for the facilities in Fairfax County. Like Jonathan said, it's not like it can't happen, but I would say recently, most of my clients have been able to be moved into a facility pretty immediately. Whether they're going from an assisted living facility into a nursing facility or going from home, I haven't really experienced many waiting lists recently.
Okay, thank you. Do you offer help with figuring out accessory dwelling setup?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you offer help with figuring out accessory dwelling setup?
Accessory dwelling? I'm not sure what they're referring to.
I'm thinking this may be the ADU, oh, I'm losing the thought. If the attendee who wrote this in, if you wouldn't mind saying this again, because we may
yeah, sorry, not familiar with the term. So I want to make sure I'm responding.
We'll come back to this one.
Yeah.
Clarify in the chat, kind of clarify what they mean.
Yeah, the figuring out accessory dwelling setup. So we'll come back to this one. Another question is, and we've somewhat answered this one, but are some of these services available for someone who makes too much money to qualify for aid?
For what was the last word?
For aid.
For aid. Okay. Right. So again, I mean, home-based care probably is the most flexible if we're talking income eligibility. Probably has the most generous income eligibility. Auxiliary grants, again, to get specific, the income limit is right around $2,000 a month, and really are very strict on any additional assets. So we talked about home-based care, just looking at your monthly income, auxiliary grants, and indeed long-term care Medicaid. So for the waiver and nursing home placement, they're going to look at all of your assets and resources. So that's guided by state Medicaid policy. We have some flexibility with home-based care because that's set locally, and so we're very, very fortunate in that regard. So, so I think as we're talking about other facility options for folks who maybe don't meet the criteria for auxiliary grant, a couple of thoughts. Lincolnia, one of the auxiliary grant facilities that I mentioned, they will actually accept folks private pay at the auxiliary grant rate, meaning folks are going to pay right around $1,850 a month for placement at Lincolnia if they're over the auxiliary grant. So again, that's something that we offer locally through that facility specifically. There's also, again, this is through our folks in housing and community development, but Braddock Glen is a facility that is operated by a private provider, but is meant for those folks who can't quite afford traditional assisted living placement, but make too much for, auxiliary grants, the low income Medicaid program. So that's, there are other options within Fairfax County, depending on where you are in the income and asset, scale.
I would like to say too that when we're doing case management, there are many times when we find ways or Medicaid, the Medicaid workers can kind of work with you or give you information on how to qualify in the future. Mm-hmm. Meaning, sometimes there are what they call spin downs, and we're able to get information or give you information on maybe how to qualify in the future. So just because you're over income doesn't mean that we are still not able to, that we're not able to help you. We are able to, look at each individual's financial situation and work with, the Medicaid workers, the assisted living facility staff, and just as a team kind of work and look at your individual situation to see how you could possibly qualify for like the auxiliary grant or the waiver in the future. So just because you're over income, say, oh, I have $100,000, or however much that's over income, that doesn't count you out. So, if you're interested in services, I would suggest that you still reach out to us.
I think something that our workers often say is the only way that we can tell you if you're eligible for Medicaid is to apply for Medicaid, right? Our social workers cannot tell you, 100% that you're going to be eligible or not. And as Tammy's saying, exploring other options, maybe even referring you to an elder care attorney who could help you with managing your finances in such a way that you would be eligible for a Medicaid program, for instance.
I would say we go pretty much all of the workers go over and above to try to see in what way, even if it's just giving you resources and information. Maybe you don't qualify right now, but we really try our best and go over and above to help you, in whatever ways that are needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. We did get a follow-up, and just Tammy and Jonathan, I just want, we have a lot of questions and we only have so much time. So just want to keep that in mind when
we allowed a lot of time. That's good.
Yeah. We have about 15 minutes and there's at least 15 minutes or more of questions. So
sure. Fire away.
Okay. So the accessory dwelling unit, they were saying, it allows a senior to use part of their home to rent to supplement income to be able to stay at home. This is a new program in the county and there are a lot of rules. So their question is there anyone who can help set this up? And maybe this is an ADCR line call, but that was the follow-up to that question.
Yeah, I'm certainly not equipped to answer that question. So ADCR, and they actually refer you folks to neighborhood and community development, to our housing programs. As that sounds like that's a housing program specifically. But our folks on ADCR would certainly know at very least where to point you in the right direction. So yeah, back to that ADCR line.
And we're using these abbreviations. That's the phone line that we had.
Yeah, sorry. I don't want to call it an intake line again because it's way more than that. So yeah.
But the aging phone line we had up. Hey, Jonathan, do you want to keep that up?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't know if that was distracting or
no, I think it's good because we're going to keep referring back to this. So
all right, there you go.
Another question is, can you tell us a little more about the adult foster care program and how is it funded?
Okay, yeah, great question. So adult foster care, again, it's a local program, so it's not a mandated. Some of these programs, like home-based care, for instance, is something that the state requires us to offer to some extent, and we offer it actually to a great extent. Adult foster care is not one of those programs. It's not, but we recognize that folks need options. They're asking for options. Again, adult foster care. Personally, I don't think it's a great name, so looking for suggestions for names if you've got one. But really, it's designed for, again, older adults to reside in a home. It's truly someone's home, and again, it's funded through the auxiliary grant, the Medicaid program, the same program that funds assisted living placement. So it's that same eligibility functionally and financially. And folks residing in these homes, again, would get the type of support that they might expect from assisted living in terms of, their housekeeping, laundry, meal prep, that sort of thing. And, assistance with bathing and some of those personal care needs. So the owner of the home is vetted by the county. We have staff who are focused specifically on this program. to, assess the home, safety and appropriateness of the home, to assess the individual and their ability to provide the care. But before we offer this, so at the moment, I do believe that we have some vacancies, some opportunity for folks to move into this program if they're interested. It's the same sort of assessment process. So again, calling our aging, disability, and caregiver resource line to get the ball rolling. So that's a bit more about the program. I think there was a second part to the question, Allegra.
How is it funded?
Funding. Okay. Yeah. So again, it's an auxiliary grant. It's that Medicaid program. So that's how our providers are supported to provide the care. But the program is run locally in terms of the day-to-day operations. Our providers are communicating with Fairfax County staff to address needs, to address issues, that sort of thing. So it's state funded, locally run.
Perfect. A question: if an elder moves into a nursing home because they are not mobile, will Medicaid always want to take control of the elder's house?
Sure. Okay. So I want to be careful how I answer this because I'm not a Medicaid worker. So I don't want to, speak to I can't speak to your situation specifically. In short, my understanding of Medicaid anyway is that an individual who's residing in the community who moves into a facility in order to qualify for Medicaid would at least need to put their home sort of on the market. So, or they would need to sort of transfer ownership in some way. Again, the specifics of how that's regulated, how that's assessed, I'm going to leave that to our Medicaid colleagues to answer that question. So it's, Medicaid is not going to own the home. The state's not going to own the home. But in order to qualify for Medicaid, ownership of the home may need to change, or, you may need to put it on the market. Sorry, just one more note, just one more thought actually on facility, sort of nursing home facility placement under Medicaid. And Tammy kind of mentioned this spend down. So, you may actually have quite a high income. And so on sort of day one of the month, you may not qualify for Medicaid, but you have this spend down where you're paying the facility a certain amount. And because you've spent that amount, by day two, you're qualified for Medicaid. And so you can be in a Medicaid bed, you can have Medicaid support for nursing home placement, even if you have quite a high level of care. So again, I say that really just to encourage people to not limit their options because they think I might not qualify. Make the call, explore your options, and have someone who can really, i.e. not me, someone who can really tell you about the Medicaid process and what the ins and outs of that are.
Thank you. This question came in: what is available for someone with late stage dementia whose income is over $60K a year?
Tammy, do you want to answer that?
Whose income is over $60K a year? Yeah, I don't know. I think you should probably answer because I don't know. I know that there are memory care facilities that exist.
Yep.
Are they talking about does it say if they're talking about for assisted living or nursing home? Say, right?
It just says what is available for someone. And again, some of these questions will definitely be really good to get on the phone with a social worker with our main phone number, because we have to dig into a lot of details here. What type of, what do you mean by what's available? Are you looking for home, assisted living or memory care? In late stage, I'm thinking memory care, but it's not quite clear. But So
Right.
maybe this
Well,
could
I
be
mean, I would say that actually probably it's possible that any of the services that we've talked about today might be available to that person.
Mhm.
Again, and as you're saying, Allegra, really depending on the situation. If they have a spouse, right, or a household, right, then some of that income is going to be protected in terms of spousal coverage and that sort of thing. So so that could mean that they could, receive the waiver, nursing home level of care in the home. And perhaps there's a need for palliative or hospice support to sort of complement that with one of our community partners. But their care may be met at an assisted living level of care. Their care may be met at a nursing home level of care. So yes, you're right, Allegra. It really depends on the individual's specific circumstances and the income. It again really sort of depends on the household makeup and that sort of thing. So not going to be able to tell you about every situation. I could spend hours, going through every single person's situation and still not have covered it all. So it's challenging to respond to specifics like that.
Yeah. Another thing too is I know somebody asked if they could have your emails, but really the best place, again, we're going to say, is to call the intake line. And am I correct, Jonathan and Tammy? Then providing.
Yeah, I would love to be able to. I would love to hear from you. But I may not be able to respond to everybody. So
Most appropriate would just be
and our folks, like we said before, our folks on this ADCR line, they know about resources that I'm not even aware of. So they're real experts.
And I just we're at 12:56 and we still have quite a few more questions. And Tammy and Jonathan, are you okay to stay an extra 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure, no
So
problem.
for the audience, we'll stay an extra 5 minutes. For any questions we do not get to, we're really encouraging you to please call our phone line that we have up here for you. And so let me get to a few more within this 10 minutes.
And also, Allegra, if there are questions that you want to send me that I can respond and you can get back to folks, I'm happy to respond to those questions after the fact.
No problem. Okay. So do adults have to be a citizen in order to apply? How many years required living in the country? Can residents eligible to is a question we have.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you mean maybe applying to what these different services we're talking about.
So if we're talking about Medicaid, I'm not going to answer that question because I'm not equipped to do so, and really again depends on your situation. So I would encourage you to. I mean, you can reach actually our Medicaid specialist directly, and I can provide that number to share as well. But as far as home-based care is concerned, the answer is no. So because that's a locally funded program, we can provide that really to anyone who meets the functional and financial. So we're not looking at citizenship, immigration status, anything like that. So that's a great offering. So an option. Yeah.
And I do see quite a few Medicaid questions coming in. Please call our main number and they'll connect you with VICAP, which is the Virginia Insurance Counseling.
For Medicare or
Medicaid and Medicare, they can talk with you about specific questions. And it's counseling that is unbiased, and that is who we recommend you speak with. So I'm not going to get to all the Medicaid and Medicare questions because that's very specific to that group.
And that main number that you mentioned, that's 703-324-7500, 703-324-7500, and that'll get connected with
for
family
VICAP,
services.
for the Virginia Insurance.
Well, no, for family services generally. So if you're talking about Medicaid questions and these sorts of more general family service questions, that would be the contact.
Yes, but if you still call the number that's on the screen, they'll get you there too. So
yes,
don't feel confused.
No wrong door.
There's no wrong door. We have quite a few questions coming in about providing dementia care facilities like list and what's the best dementia care facility, and a lot of them are private, and so we cannot recommend a private business, but where could they get a list that you two could recommend? And again, I'm going to say again, calling calling this phone line, but
Right,
Mhm.
right. So the source book is a great option for looking at services in general, even beyond facilities, elder care attorneys, home health agencies, all sorts of things. So actually, if you just Google source book, and that'll actually speak not just to Fairfax, but the whole DMV, DC metropolitan area care options there. We do have a list of facilities, and actually it's on the public domains estate list, but of facilities that offer the auxiliary grant. And you can actually also search for facilities that accept Medicaid. So if you're looking for those programs specifically, that may be a place to start. If you're looking for, I mean, and I say that broadly because there are folks who are in facilities with memory care services receiving auxiliary grant or receiving long-term care Medicaid services. So again, we're coming from the adult services world where these are the types of situations that we're encountering. The private pay facilities, we're not dealing with those that often. We're looking at more of the eligibility based services. So I would refer you to kind of those sort of more public domain sources like the source book. Tammi, I don't know if you want to add anything.
If they have a caseworker, they usually are able to get them lists of nursing facilities and assisted living facilities that are taking auxiliary grant. And also the registry that Jonathan mentioned earlier for in-home assistance, for private pay in-home assistance. So if you have a caseworker, they're also able to get you lists of those.
As far as how old does a disabled person have to be to receive benefits under these programs?
So some facilities have age requirements. Lincolnia, I believe it's 55 years old. Willow Oaks actually does serve individuals under 62, but there's often a long wait list because there's just a few beds. As far as the waiver and home-based care services, it's 18 and older. So as long as they're 18 and older and meet the functional criteria, then they may be eligible for those services. So that's really only the only restriction as far as age is concerned.
Okay. Does anyone in the department offer advice to homeowners about modifications that can be made to the home to continue living there instead of requiring a move into assisted living facilities, the design and cost estimates? Sure.
Well, again, I would start with this ADCR line. That's our resources line. But it's a great opportunity to mention our home repair for the elderly program. So there are various programs, and again, depending on how extensive we're talking about here, that's why I refer you to the line to make sure you're sent to the right place. Something like our home repair for the elderly is something that we can provide kind of in-house with whether it's grab bars or these sorts of modifications, even things like ramps and stair lifts and this sort of thing. But there's even larger programs beyond adult and aging within the county. So again, no wrong door, would start with this phone number.
Okay. With the home-based services we talked earlier, the similar question here, does the Social Security get included into financial calculations for the eligibility for the home-based services? This would be for a couple. I would think so, right?
Right. The short answer is yes.
Yeah. So that is your income. Social Security is part of that income.
Right. Yeah.
Does Medicaid offer an option for family to pay for private rooms? Again, another Medicaid question, so we can refer back to what we spoke about.
Do they offer an opportunity for folks to pay privately? I mean, if, again, this is getting a little technical, but again, sort of that spend down, there may be situations where folks are, I mean, I had a client whose income was $7,000 a month, clearly above that $2,000 limit that we always, talk about. But because he was in a facility, and nursing homes cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month, while a portion of his income was protected and he kept that monthly, the vast majority of his income went to the facility, and Medicaid sort of paid the balance, as it were. But he was there under Medicaid, but also using his own funds. So if you're in Medicaid, if you're Medicaid, you're not considered to be private pay. Now I suppose you may have an instance where one spouse is under Medicaid and another is private pay, and so you may have that duality. But yeah, that sounds like a Medicaid question.
Okay. And our last question, and then we really do got to wrap up here, is there a list of geriatric practitioners who accept new patients for the elderly who relocate to NOVA from another state?
I assume we're talking about like medical.
Yeah, for geriatric medical
Doctors.
Mhm.
Yeah. So a list of those who are currently accepting new patients, I would probably refer you to your insurance provider, and Medicare and Medicaid included in that, if you have that coverage. Again, the source book may be an option for you to kind of highlight those folks that are, geriatric practitioners specifically. But again, whether they're accepting new patients or not, really couldn't speak to that directly.
Yes, I would agree to go check with your insurance or whoever you're using to see. So I know we have more questions, but we have ran out of time, folks. So again, I looked at the questions, and they all would be terrific questions for the phone line that we spoke about. So please give them a call, and they can give you more time to get into depth into what you're looking for. And we're getting ready to sign out. So there will be, again, that brief survey. If you can take a moment to answer those questions and help us provide topics that you are interested in. Tammi and Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. Thank you. And to everyone in our audience, thank you so much for being here. Our next caregiver webinar will be on August the 17th from 12 to 1 p.m. on supporting a loved one with mental illness. We hope you can join us then, and I wish everyone a great afternoon. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care.